It's Thursday of Stanford week. This is the official visit podcast. It's a little bit different than in the past. Hi, everyone. I'm Tyson Alger, joined here by Andrew Greif. Andrew, generally, Stanford week is one that kind of usually decides who's going to win the Pac-12 North. It's not the case this year. What do you want to talk about today?
We should probably stick to sports.
Stick to sports?
Let's talk about all the things.
Let's not stick to sports. Let's dive right into it.
Let's talk about, first of all, the matchup. Let's talk about, real quick, after that, let's dive into all the things that could end this year for Oregon.
Wait, but it's 3-6 versus 6-3, and you want to talk about matchups?
In a way. I want to talk about it for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Because then I want to move right past it.
Ready, set, go.
Okay.
Defense.
I think a key matchup for Oregon's offense against Stanford's defense is Solomon Thomas.
Ooh, he's really good.
The defensive end, he's my player to watch this week.
He's got a lot of sacks.
He has 7 sacks. He has 43 tackles. Of those 43 tackles, 12 have been for loss. So 27%. That's pretty good rate of him getting into the backfield and against an offensive line that was looking like a turnstile against USC. This is not a good matchup.
So he was a Pac-12 all-conference honorable mention selection last year. He has already topped all of his numbers from last season in 5 fewer games.
Wow.
So he's a good player.
Yeah. He you know who's not having as good of a year, but is still having.
I thought you were going to segue into, you know who's not a good player?
No, a guy who's not having quite as good of a year is Christian McCaffrey.
Wasn't he the guy that a lot of people thought should have won the Heisman last year, and then this year he was a front runner for it, and then he's kind of had a down year?
That's you pegged him. Yeah, that's him. Wow. He is still averaging a fairly absurd 190 all-purpose yards per game.
What's his yard per carry?
I'm not sure about that, Tyson.
Well, maybe I can look it up since I have the computer.
But consider that last year he was averaging close to 300 yards per game. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. The drop-off, and yeah, he was hurt against Notre Dame. That's a game, actually, that Solomon Thomas won them by forcing a fumble on the final fourth down by Notre Dame. But McCaffrey's been hurt. Offensive line lost Josh Garnett, who was the Outland Trophy winner last year. So basically people are getting into the backfield and getting to McCaffrey more often than they were last year. And they don't have a quarterback who can take the pressure off McCaffrey like Kevin Hogan did. They have Keller Christ, and the last 2 games he started, he's thrown for 160, not quite 170 yards total.
That's not very good.
It's not very good.
No.
So, yeah, people keep talking this week, oh, he's huge, he's an oak tree, he's 6'5", 230, but, I don't know. He doesn't seem to put the fear into a defense.
So do you think it would make sense, because we are college coaches here, we know how to game plan for a team. Do you think it would make sense to basically just put everyone in the box to stop McCaffrey and just dare them to try to beat you through there?
Yeah, I think you have to. It's better than the alternative.
Does that work, though?
Well, not with this defense.
Hot crowd.
But it's, I don't know. The defense, I think, could find some success. Yeah, I don't think McCaffrey is quite 100%. Not that I have any insight, but he doesn't seem like he's running as effective as Helfrich noted this week. They don't use him in as many spots as they were last year to maybe keep him from getting banged up even more. But I don't think that you want to say, well, let's kind of take our bets on stopping McCaffrey. I think you have to make a concerted effort to do everything you can with him.
Okay, here's a question. Christian McCaffrey has obviously had the better season than Royce Freeman.
Right.
Who's had the more disappointing season? Considering, I think people thought that Royce Freeman was maybe a fringe Heisman candidate, but Christian McCaffrey was a bona fide, legitimate front runner for the Heisman.
I would say disappointing. I'd still go with McCaffrey. What about you?
I think so too. I think
both disappointing in a lot of ways in their own ways.
Right. I think McCaffrey's kind of lost more than Freeman. I think if Freeman would have had a repeat of last season where he had fantastic numbers, rushed for over 1,800 yards, put up a ton of touchdowns, I still don't think he gets into that Heisman conversation.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's had a good year. I mean, he's 20 yards away from 1,000 yards. Rushing, his receiving numbers are down.
Yeah,
but
he just came from such a high,
right?
That you have that gap. While his floor this year is much higher. Much higher than Freeman's. It's still that gap is bigger.
I mean, and it completely mirrors Stanford's season. This was the first time Stanford had been picked to win the Pac-12 conference, which was probably a year too late. they've been disappointing, but they're still 6-3.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're still technically a decent football team. McCaffrey is still a good football player, but it's just not to the expectation level they had before.
Yeah.
Freeman's kind of mirrored Oregon's season, and that is just completely imploded. Royce had some pretty good games near the start of the year. He rushed for 100 yards twice. But it's been a month since we've seen vintage Royce Freeman, if we've even seen him.
That's actually a really good insight. Do you mind if I steal it for a story I write later today?
Yeah, but I would appreciate a Tyson Alger contributed to this report.
I actually will.
Oh, thank you.
I will. Okay.
And I just want the asterisk by that whatever statement.
Oh, sure.
Just so people know exactly where the goods came from.
Sure. So, yeah, Stanford's 6-3, 4-3 in conference. Oregon is 3-6, 1-5. This is the bloom is off the rose this year with this matchup. Usually it's a Pac-12 North. I thought you were going to sing Seal.
Oh, that would have been way better.
Well, I thought that
Kiss by rope.
So
okay, sorry, you can go ahead.
Well, I mean, Stanford did win the Rose Bowl last year and Oregon the year before, so that's apt. So anyway, this isn't the usual Oregon-Stanford matchup where the Pac-12 North goes through it. And I asked.
So why are you going?
I asked players all week, like, does it feel odd to be basically playing Stanford without, in that sense, much writing on it? Now, of course, there's.
Did you get any honest answers from that? Because when we were asking that yesterday to like Herbert and Lubick, it was like, oh no, it's still Oregon Stanford.
Yeah, no, I actually got better responses. Like T.J. Daniel
You're better
was
at
saying,
asking questions than I am.
Well, T.J. Daniel said, yeah, it is weird. He said it's very odd to have it feel like this isn't, the whole country isn't watching this. So 1 p.m. kickoff on Pac-12 networks. Good luck finding that game on the East Coast if you how many people are going to be watching that?
Better than 7:30.
That's true. So and Steve Greatwood, offensive line coach, he said the same thing. He was like, it does feel a little odd, but then he kind of came back to, well, we still consider this a rivalry. I'm sure they do too. And David Shaw basically said, throw the records out this week. Still a big game, but it's not in the traditional way we measure it. I think that it's even bigger than normal in some ways because does Oregon's coaching staff do their jobs right on it? Maybe not on this particular game, but it will be another nail in the coffin.
It is pretty interesting because on this podcast, I think 4 weeks ago when Oregon was in their 4-game losing streak, we had kind of brought up the question, why doesn't Helfrich get the same respect David Shaw has? Well, you've kind of seen how their seasons have diverted since that time. Oregon had that 1 week of staving off talk against a bad Arizona State team and went right back into it last week with USC. And Stanford is Stanford hasn't completely fixed the dam, but they've been able to morph back into a decent football team.
And we should note the caveat that they have won 2 straight against Arizona and Oregon State.
True. But
just like Oregon beat up on Arizona State.
But Oregon lost to Cal.
Yeah.
Oregon lost to.
But those are 2 of along with Oregon, the 3 very worst teams in the conference.
Oh, very true.
So I think they would probably be the first to say their issues haven't been fixed either. But they're just confident, and that's what Oregon isn't.
But I would say that maybe the difference between a coach, and this is hypothetical, maybe the difference between a coach who is still completely got his finger on the thumb of a program versus one who's not is the fact that Stanford is still beating the teams it should beat.
Sure.
And Oregon hasn't.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think that's completely fair. I think that's why people are so upset about the USC game last week is that, USC has more talent, but they were 1-3, and they looked bad.
Right.
And they've stormed back. And so I think a lot of people are looking at, especially after last week when that game wasn't even competitive in LA, being like, why can't Oregon be like that? Why is Oregon struggling so much when USC with a new coach and a freshman quarterback and a bunch of new coaches, how are they able to turn it around and we can't? I think it's a legitimate question and why people are frustrated.
Right. You think USC's got a chance against Washington this weekend?
I do, yeah. I think
it's weird. I think Washington is a far superior football team than they are, but I just got this weird feeling that it always just seems, especially with the fact that Washington just finally snuck into the college football playoff rankings, that they're just going to get one loss somewhere and it's going to screw the whole Pac-12.
Yeah, I don't. I was
Stanford had 2 losses last year, right?
Oregon and Northwestern.
Right, because that's what kept them out of the
Yeah, yeah. I'll be curious. I got asked that the other day. Like, what do you think will happen if Ohio State wins out and Washington wins out? And
there's no way undefeated Pac-12. Well, you would think there should be no way that an undefeated Pac-12 team doesn't get in.
Yeah, but Ohio State, they beat Michigan in the second to last game of the season.
Don't get me wrong. Ohio State might be a better team than them, but I'm just saying
it would set a very odd precedent.
Right.
And you have Rob Mullins, Oregon's AD, in that room.
Right. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that, just to see, like, is Mullins, like, pushing for Washington hard? Is he harboring a little bit of angst because Washington just spanked Oregon this year? I doubt that's the case, but...
And that's... I would want to watch it for a different reason because, like, he is a numbers guy. He's an accountant by trade. Obviously now a good AD, but... and he's in a room largely, and I know it's not all the way because they want that diversity, but largely with quote-unquote football guys.
Right.
Coaches, Barry Alvarez, people in there who I think probably take a lot of pride in their level of knowledge in football and the nuances.
They take a lot of pride in pad level.
Right. God, how many times have I heard pad level this year?
6.
So, more than 6. So, I'd just be curious, like, it's got to be a little intimidating, you would think, to walk into that room and say, hey, this is who I think is the best football team.
Especially when... I'm sure initially it was, this is the AD of Oregon. And now it's like, that's the AD. Oregon's probably lost a little bit of its luster in that room over the past 6 or 7 months. If this was a basketball selection committee, maybe a little different. A little plug, Oregon basketball season starts tomorrow. You can find a lot of stuff at OregonLive.com/Ducks.
Who are they playing?
Army.
Okay.
On Veterans Day.
Oh.
The Ducks are wearing Army-inspired uniforms.
Have you posted on that yet?
I have not.
You should.
Well, get off my...
Go get those clicks.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we've talked about Stanford enough.
Basketball.
Yeah. Is there anything else football-wise that we should talk about? Actually, one thing just about the defensive line. I was going through my preview today. I was writing about it, and I was just looking at all the people who are gone from that defensive line from
the start of the year,
start of fall camp. So you're down.
We even had a surprise like a little bit ago that you were telling me about, right?
I don't remember.
Another medical red shirt. I mean.
Yeah. So you're down.
Not red shirt.
Yeah. Don't say red shirt. It's a retirement.
Yeah.
So you're down Rodney Prevost, suspension. You're down Eddie Hurd, arrest, and then later suspension. You're down Ratu Mafleo, medical redshirt. Medical retirement. Medical retirement, which means
he's done.
He's done for his career at Oregon. Could transfer somewhere else and play, but he'd have to get cleared by a doctor.
Can't Kamatue.
Done. Medical retirement at Oregon. That's 4. Who else? Austin Malawada against USC was suspended for a game.
Right.
And then just regular. That's just guys who are kind of out all the way. Then you have random injuries like Drayden Carlberg, ankle for several weeks. Jalen Jelks.
Right. So essentially what you're trying to say is if you're looking for a reason why this defense is horrible, that's part of it.
And that's Brady Hoke's calling card is defensive line. Like you need strong defensive line. That's why they went to a 4-3.
And this defensive line, even when everyone was healthy, wasn't that fantastic.
No. It was going to be fine.
I'm really curious, and I obviously fantastic decision to suspend him if pending whatever, but I wonder how much of a difference Prevost would have made because we haven't seen him play defensive line before. He was an outside linebacker in last year's system.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
They do have a guy in Jonah Moy who fills in a lot of ways his spot. I don't know if he's as quick as Preview, but maybe I'm just making that up because Preview is this more slender guy than Moy, who's more built. But they basically have him now in third downs to rush the passer exclusively, and he's done okay with that. Not great, but I do wonder what Prevost would do.
Do you think, we don't know what Malawada was suspended for the game, but do you think coaches are more likely to institute a one-game suspension if the team is winning or if the team is losing?
Well, yeah, especially when you can...
Helfrich has a lot to be coaching for right now, so, you would assume he's pretty desperate.
Yeah,
but at the same time, if they're winning, they're probably... So anyways, I don't know what the situation is, but I was just surprised to hear that someone was suspended for the game. And
yeah.
I guess that's a good thing if it was needed. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, let's
just speculate.
It's because he voted for Jill Stein.
Right.
So let's.
How'd she do?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Didn't look.
Yeah.
I just want to go through real quick. This will at some point become a story, but
On Oregon Live.
yeah, on OregonLive.com, maybe even a print edition.
Backslash.
That gets delivered Friday, Saturdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays. So these are all the streaks that have ended from Oregon this year. NCAA record 82 games with at least one touchdown pass that ended against Nebraska. I want you to make a ding like it's a PTI or something whenever
Here, hold on a
a
second.
new record goes down.
I got you.
Pause for technical moments real quick
Oh.
as Tyson goes to YouTube.
Okay, here we go. Nope. There we go.
Okay. So that was the NCAA record, 82 games, at least one touchdown pass. Then we've got 9 consecutive final AP poll appearances. That will most certainly happen. Oregon, even if they win their next 3, is not going to make it into the final AP top 25.
Mm-hmm.
That's been 9 straight years. 12 straight wins against Washington. 7 straight wins against Cal. 9 consecutive 100-yard games for Royce Freeman.
Wait, when did that date? Oh, that dated back. When did that end?
That ended in the season opener against UC Davis because he had run his 9th straight was against TCU in the Alamo Bowl. So you're gonna have to apologize to people whose ears just exploded from that. A school record 102 straight point after attempts made by Aiden Schneider. That ended last week against USC. Of course, a school record 110 consecutive sellouts of Autzen Stadium. And then these are the ones. So those are the ones that have ended. Things that could.
What's
end.
in jeopardy now?
What's in jeopardy is even more amazing. So you're looking at
Rushing title.
Well, winning streak against Oregon State.
Ooh. What's that at right now?
I think it's 8 right now.
Okay.
Ever since 2008, they've won. At least 20 points in 39 straight games. That's the longest active streak in the FBS. It almost went down against USC until Dakota Prukop scored that late touchdown on the run. 1,000-yard rusher for 9 straight seasons. Longest active streak in the FBS. Royce Freeman is just shy of 600, and he's Oregon's leading rusher right now.
Okay, so what's Royce's career high in a game? Like 250 something?
Yeah, against Washington State.
So conceivably he could still get there, but
totally,
it's gonna. I mean, Stanford's not a team you're going to rush for a ton of yards against.
Utah is also a top 40 defense.
So basically, you got Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really fascinating to see if any these guys are already splitting carries.
Who rushes for more yards, Oregon's running backs or Ryan Nall?
You're giving me the field, basically?
Well, I'm saying combine Tony Brooks-James and Royce Freeman and Oregon State's top 2 rushers.
Oregon.
Okay.
We can revisit this, though.
Wait, hold on.
Okay. So, did I say 1,000-yard rusher for 9 straight years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just talking.
Well, I wasn't sure if I explicitly mentioned that or if you led me down that path.
Yeah.
So, you lead me down several. So, here's 10 straight years leading the Pac-12 in rushing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's Oregon's most incredible stat that they have.
Yeah.
Like 10 straight years.
Washington just left them after last week's game.
And like I understand that this like Pac-12 over the last X amount of years has kind of morphed into like a passing conference, but still for Oregon to go 10 straight years leading the conference in rushing, that's ridiculous.
Well, and it's not even that they led the conference. I think I haven't done the full stats on it, but I would venture to guess that in those 10 straight years, they've been in the top 15 in rushing every year, nationally.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So, I mean, it's not like they're just barely squeaking by people and they're like averaging 150 yards a game. They're actually, they're pounding people.
Right.
11 straight winning seasons. 11 straight seasons playing in a bowl. 9 straight seasons with a winning record.
11 straight winning seasons is done.
Well, no. Well, yeah, technically.
Well, actually, technically not, because if they went out and then go to a bowl and then win the bowl, they
Right.
could technically win.
Right.
Sorry, I'm fact checking myself.
This game,
real time.
This game will be the one that decides it.
Correct.
If they lose, obviously the best they can do is 5-7, and even then, if they sneak into a bowl game, they could only get to 6-7.
Mm-hmm.
So, 9 straight seasons with a winning record in Pac-12 play. 9 straight seasons leading the Pac-12 in scoring. Those are all things that could go down, are likely to go down, and that, if you combine that with the things that have already, the streaks that have already come to an end this year, that's about a dozen pretty monumental streaks.
What's the mood in Eugene if Oregon wins these 3 straight games and then wins a bowl game?
Ooh.
That would be a crazy story.
Yeah. It'd probably be the same mood that it was last year.
Pre-Alamo Bowl.
Well, in LSU. When
right, where Les Miles kind of like saved his career. And
everyone was hot to fire Miles.
Right.
He got like that last vote of support, whatever,
Well, and that's,
stuck around.
That's kind of why they got rid of him so early this year, was so they didn't have the chance to. I'm pulling all my LSU sources there.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it would be really, really interesting to see what happened. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would say we feel like we're losing out on a guy like Tom Herman, maybe, or names like Larry Fedora of North Carolina and Mike Gundy were thrown around of Oklahoma State this week after a 24/7 sports report by Travis Haney. Yeah, I mean, it could be, and those guys were named because they were Nike. They are
right
at top-ish Nike schools that they could probably poach.
I would just be so fascinated to see if a big name coach that you're throwing that much money at works in Eugene, because I think Eugene's a relatively unique situation for a big name coach to go to, because of its recruiting issues, because of location.
Yeah.
A lot of these big name coaches coach in recruiting hotbeds.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We'll see.
There's a lot of things that Oregon has built-in disadvantages and also built-in advantages.
Correct.
So,
like what?
Well, facilities.
Uh-huh.
That's it. So it would be really interesting to see how much that outweighs the. By the way, you're gonna have to go to California and Texas.
Uniforms. Are you not so hot on the uniforms, Andrew?
I think everyone does them.
Okay, like who?
Everyone except for Penn State.
Remember when like Maryland was like the team that was like trying the hardest to like get in on the uniform things, and they would just throw out like uniforms that looked like jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like a long time ago that Oregon was kind of. I mean, I still think they are like the most outlandish in a good way and bad way. Like but everyone is doing alternates. Look at Ohio State last week. They did like the matte gray, the 1940s era. I mean, that was a cool uniform, but it's nothing you would have seen 10 years ago.
I feel like Oregon right now, and this is getting into hot take territory. I feel like Oregon right now, whenever they do a radical jersey,
Don't get fired.
It's kind of like a one and done jersey, kind of like the orange socks against It seems like their base concept ones haven't really deviated a ton over the last several years. Like they've changed like the shoulder pattern to like kind of like that more murky sort of, I don't know.
Well, I know a lot of fans are upset they don't have the winged helmets anymore because they ended their contract with the firm who made those. And that's something that a lot of people are like, I wish we had those. They just love those helmets.
Those ones were pretty sharp.
Yeah,
I liked them.
So, who knows? But anything else
or
you want to talk about?
Maybe I didn't like them. I don't want to put out my opinion on this podcast.
Play it straight down the middle.
Play it straight down the middle. Anything else we want to talk about? Oregon basketball gets started here this week.
Yeah.
They're going to destroy Army tomorrow. I think all of this is just kind of getting people ready before the Maui Invitational, which begins Civil War week.
Yeah, I think Oregon's going to win this battle of the bigs.
Wait. I got you.
But yeah, well, okay, Tim, give me a real quick last. We got 20 seconds.
Actually, we got all the time in the world.
Who, if you on the player of the year list today was Chris Boucher and Dylan Brooks, correct?
Sorry, what was
those
that?
are two players who made player of the year honors. Long list today.
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't see that.
Who do you think has a better chance to be kind of on that final, among final consideration come March?
Probably Dylan Brooks. To be completely honest, Chris Boucher might be more valuable to the team. It's almost like, in baseball, there were some guys that were kind of unheralded until advanced stats started coming out. And, you start to be like, oh, my gosh, like a guy like Ben Zobrist is actually really valuable to your team. I think that's Chris Boucher because he does a lot of things that aren't necessarily pop out on the stat sheet. He's a complete stopper on defense. He alters way more shots than he blocks, and he blocks a lot of shots. He's got range. He can do all sorts of things. But Dylan Brooks is a guy who's been in kind of the national spotlight before. He was pretty much the runner-up Pac-12 Player of the Year last year. He's going to score more points than Boucher. He had that dust-up with Mike Krzyzewski last year, so people know who this guy is. And I think that kind of goes a long way at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to unseat the front runner just because the front runner has his name out there before everyone else. This is assuming that he comes back completely from his foot injury. Oregon has had issues with foot injuries over the past couple seasons, and especially with how young these guys are, they can put a lot of work in the summer and refine their games, and Dylan Brooks wasn't able to do that, and Chris Boucher was. So I think the biggest key for Boucher this season is just being able to sustain the level he's playing at throughout the whole season, because he really kind of not fell apart, but just kind of became a non-factor during the NCAA tournament last year.
It's going to be huge to see how much Boucher can do stat-wise with blocks, because I feel like as much as a presence he will be, just if I'm playing against him, I would totally reconsider where I drove because of him. But those don't show up in stats. So it's like shots affected, stuff like that. It's so hard. And so I think it is kind of a guard's game.
Right.
And I think that Brooks, kind of like, Buddy Hield, there were guys before that, or Joe Young, it's just easier to quantify, wow, that guy's good. Yeah. Because they have the ball in their hands.
Well, and it's just having him there just alters what even all the Ducks do. Like Oregon's going to likely put Chris Boucher and Jordan Bell on the floor together. And before Boucher got here, Jordan Bell was Chris Boucher with a less refined offensive game. He set the school record for blocked shots that Boucher shattered last season. But now Bell's a very athletic guy. He's 6'9". They're talking about potentially extending him out to like a wing position and trying to guard the perimeter and in the inside. So he might be able to block some shots on the outside. And if guys drive, there's Boucher. Right. They got a lot of options.
Did you happen to see kind of yesterday, I believe, was National Letter of Intent Day for the early signing period for basketball? They pick up anybody?
They picked up that 5-star from Vegas.
And he officially signed Troy Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is absolutely huge. I mean, the consensus, one of the top players in the country. I think he's a top-rated player Altman's ever brought in. I think he's – I'll have to go back and look at it, but I think he's the second highest signee Oregon has ever gotten, like, in their history. So
behind Aaron Brooks?
No, it was behind –
Malik Kirsten?
Yes. Ding!
Went to school with him.
Yeah, so anyways, I mean, Oregon's got a lot of momentum, and one of the things that we've kind of talked about before is Dana Altman's always been successful with kind of average to good players. Like, he's been able to kind of get the best out of everybody. Now the talent's catching up, so they got a lot of momentum in their favor, and be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, Tyson, good podcast today.
Hey, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun, and, it's nice that we're able to put on this face and pretend like we get along with each other.
I know.
For however long this was.
29 minutes.
Yeah. You want to carpool to the game Saturday?
Yeah. We might see you guys on the road. If you do, honk and tell us you're listening to the official visit. Even better, you should rate us in the iTunes store.
Or just honk because Andrew's kind of a little sporadic on the road, according to Jason Quick. They can find us on iTunes. We would love a rating. They can find us on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Alger. You're at Andrew Greif.
So word of mouth. Tell your friends about our podcast. Where can I get some more player guests in the future? Let us know if you want any recommendations. We can try to get them on the podcast. Until then, thanks for officially visiting.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See you on Saturday.